velkommen på scenen til deres kongelige højhed, Kronprinsessen, som i en årrække har kæmpet for piger og kvinders rettigheder. Og de er her i dag for at høre pigernes egen historie. Så lad os møde nogle af de stærke unge kvinder, som tager kampen op. Farida Nalumansi og Lydia Alamru, de er begge pigerettighedsforkæmpere i henholdsvis Uganda og Etiopien. Og lad os starte med Farida. Hi Farida, I've been looking forward to introducing you to the Danes today.
Hello Mette, nice to be on this great platform.
Let me first of all introduce you to Her Royal Highness, the Crown Princess of Denmark. She's here because she's a fierce advocate for girls and women's rights, and she has a microphone right there. She's ready to ask you some questions.
Hello, Frida. How are you doing today?
Hello. I'm doing great. It is a pleasure to meet you, Her Royal Highness.
Well, it's a great pleasure for me to meet you, Frida, and I'm sure everyone here at Nærum High School is looking forward to hearing a little bit more about the amazing work that you're doing in your fight for girls' rights. We're in the middle of a global pandemic, perhaps the worst health crisis in 100 years. Societies have been locked down across the whole world. Also, our daily lives here in Denmark have changed remarkably. But we'd love to hear a little bit more about how COVID-19 has affected your daily life and also the lives of other young girls and women in your local community.
Thank you so much, Her Royal Highness. I am pleased to speak to you this afternoon. COVID-19 globally has affected every girl and young woman, but in Uganda, it has affected us in very many ways. First and foremost, COVID-19 has brought upon the food crisis. We're having a lot of hunger. This is letting girls to resort to prostitution in order to cater for their children and families. This prostitution is bringing upon all forms of violence. We are being sexually harassed, violated verbally, violated emotionally because of the food crisis. And this is putting our lives in danger as girls in Uganda.
Well, it is a stark contrast to what and how our lives here in Denmark have been affected. It's difficult for us to imagine what COVID-19 and how COVID-19 has impacted. Can you tell us a little bit about education, what it means for, there's been a lot of schools locked down for over 6 months, I believe. How is that affecting the girls' potential to create a better life for themselves, their security, their health? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Thank you so much. It is now that we are realizing schools are safer places for girls. Here in Kampala, without our school uniforms, men are looking at us as wife materials. They are looking at us in a different way. Without education in Uganda, it is hard to survive. For me, it happened to me when I conceived at an early age. When you are out of school, girls are likely to get exposed to sexual advances, to sexual harassment, to verbal harassment, emotional harassment, all kinds of violence. In the community, it is not safe for a girl to stay in.
Schools are your absolute best road to creating a better future for yourself, education. And we have to be able to secure that education. I know perhaps there's no prospect right now, or is there prospect of schools beginning to reopen in Kampala?
Yeah, on 15th of this very month, October, finalists are only allowed to go back to school. But again, this is not a good measure because we are still having high transport costs as we are in a lockdown and the transport means are allowed to take few people like the taxis. So girls like me who are vulnerable in the slums are likely to not report every day to school. Currently, with none the finalists, we are having online education, but it is excluding the girls like me who have no access to internet, laptop, and phones. And this is opening us to the exposure of the sexual harassment from the men who know that we really need this.
It really is a situation where all factors are combining to create a terrible storm, you can say. We know that when crisis strikes, that the poorest and most vulnerable are disproportionately affected. And women and girls, unfortunately, often are that group of people. Is there any, I know the work you're doing maybe you could tell us or share with us a little bit about the work you're doing in your local community to try and overcome some of these very tough and many challenges?
Yes, please. I realized I can create the change I need in my community. I started that by utilizing the chance that I got, however much I'm a mother of 2 children, I utilized the chance that I got to go back to school. Because in Uganda, it is not the case. Once you drop out, you cannot be taken back in school. So I decided to stay a role model to all the child mothers in my community that they can do it. However much they face all the consequences of not being in school. Currently, I'm influencing leaders online and physically to put in place measures that can support girls to really access education and to improve on their safety. I am changing the mindset of men to change their attitude towards the girls because they see us as sex objects. I'm also helping the girls as in peer-to-peer talks, as I be the role model so that they can take the courage and normally not normalize anything of the injustices they face, but to go to the police and make them accountable as we break the chain of silence.
You are such an inspiration, Farida. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your life and the life of other girls and young women in Kampala, Uganda, with us today. I'm sure a lot of us are thinking, how can that be? But when the rug is taken from under you, that begins the spiral of all the challenges. And as you said in the start, that COVID-19 is like there's coming a magnifying glass over the problems. You need to have a holistic approach to how we rectify that. But first and foremost, we have to respect and ensure that girls' rights are respected and that they have the opportunity to get an education, be free of violence, stay healthy, have equal opportunities, and they deserve the right to have the same future as everyone else and to fulfill their full potential. Maybe just as a last question, and I think it's a very poignant question, is how do we see this year maybe that is taken out of a girl's life, a year of schooling that's taken out of these girls' lives because of COVID-19. How is that going to affect the next few years in their lives?
Okay, thank you so much. Looking at 2020 to become a barrier of other years of girls' lives and young women.
Sorry, go on.
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay, please. As leaders also decide to step back, or the feminists, when they decide to step back because of the ferocity of the pandemic, this is going to negatively impact the girls and young women's lives. But as the leaders take concrete action and engage girls in decision makings upon issues that affect their lives, there they will be working upon a perceived report, and there we will get concrete action of what we need to do to plan for better future, for better futures of girls and young women to stay healthier and safe.
Thank you, Farida.
Thank you, Your Royal Highness.